Governmental committee meeting to order. First item of business, real quickly, if we could get a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved, Chairman.
A motion, we have a second?
Second motion.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Wonderful, thank you. Next, commissioners, and we also have some more commissioners sitting in the audience and some citizens here with us. We are definitely pleased and excited to have some distinguished guests, our legislative delegation with us tonight. Commissioners, they have, as I'm sure you're aware, another pre-scheduled appointment in Nashville at, I believe, about 6:15. So we appreciate them spending some time with us. So I'm going to go ahead and actually turn it over. I'm going to call on Senator Jim Tracy to kind of address us and get us started with this part.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We always enjoy coming. I think everyone's here except Senator Kepler. He wasn't able to come tonight. And Pat Marsh is not here tonight. So we're glad to be here to talk about the issues. We're looking forward to getting cranked up tomorrow. We open session tomorrow at noon to open the session this year, and we're looking forward to discuss issues. And it's good that we have a good relationship working with state and local government, that we all work together. So we'll just stop right there and let y'all go to asking questions, and we're glad to try to answer them. If we don't know any answers, we'll just let Joe answer.
There you go. Commissioner Jordan.
Yes, I appreciate it, Chairman Coggin. I wanted to ask Senator Tracy, if you could, something that's very important to me, I believe, and many of us, and I know to him too, because he's a former educator as well. The evaluation, tweaking, changes, anything planned on that? I understand you haven't even started yet, really, with meetings, but what do you think?
I will give you the update as of today. I've got some news that I think that came out right before Christmas. I met with the governor and his staff, and we've got a resolution requiring, and the governor's very supportive of this. They're going to be going throughout all the state to meet with teachers and stakeholders in education, all in every LEA across the state. That's the plan. So from talking to the commissioner and governor, yes, I think there will be some changes. It's going to take a while. We've got to get through this first year to see what's working, what's not working. And my theory is, and I've said this all along, and I've been in the classroom, the most important thing is we have the best quality teacher we can in that classroom. And we need to make this program more efficient and more streamlined. I think right now, from talking to, I visited 14 schools in 2 weeks in December, and most everybody's okay with certain parts of the evaluation, and we relayed that to the commissioner and to the governor's staff. So I see that we're going to make some changes. It's going to take a year to get through the program, and I think as we go through, starting next year's school year, you'll see a change in that.
Okay, thank you.
That answers your question.
Yes, sir.
I feel very confident you're going to see some changes.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. I also want to ask Representative Sparks, Mike, the steering committee and the commission, very supportive of this synthetic drug movement. We'll call it a movement, I guess. This stuff is serious business.
It is.
And I've got one opinion that I didn't express the other night, but I think you kind of said it. If a store was selling marijuana, we'd close them down right then and put them in jail.
Yes, sir.
This stuff is more dangerous than marijuana.
Well, it is.
And I'll leave it right there. But I'd kind of like to know how, if you're expecting your bill to pass. I know you have some other co-sponsors, et cetera.
Yes, sir. Well, Representative Shipley and I, he came to me, and we're going to try to put this together and get some, and kind of work the bill a little smarter. And I know Representative Womack and Representative Carr is very supportive too. He thinks he can get the fiscal note off of it, and that'll help. The synthetic drugs, if people aren't aware of what they are, just go to YouTube and type in synthetic drugs and effects. And basically, they had the raid, and they hit 36, about 140 markets. 36 of them they made bust. I'm also filing legislation where we'll hopefully be able to pull their beer permits, and I'm hoping we'll go out for stop them selling lottery tickets and also stop them selling tobacco. And these folks, if you've ever talked to them like I have, it's not about right and wrong, and they don't care. It's all about making a buck. It's all about making a dollar. And you know, I hate to be very politically incorrect, but, you know, I mean, I hate to say, I know people think I'm being mean or something, but most of them are foreigners that are doing this. And that's not being prejudicial by no means. It's just, I don't know if it's a cultural issue or what, but, you know, some of I've seen the hardships and I've seen the families, and y'all heard, you know, Brooke White speak, and that's just one person. There's numerous, dozens, if not hundreds across the state of Tennessee that really don't know what to do when their son or daughter or brother gets on these synthetic drugs. It's highly addictive, and we don't know the long-term implications of on the heart and some of these things that we're seeing. The Poison Control Center calls alone increased, I believe it was 1,300% the first 6 months of last year. But these guys, I think their logic is just go ahead and pay the fine and just continue to sell it. Is what and I still hear some other markets that are doing it. I think you just got to hit them hard and hit them with that almighty dollar. And I'm hoping that we can stop them from, like I say, selling beer and selling lottery tickets and selling tobacco. But I appreciate steering and public safety seeing the awareness. And awareness is half the problem, or half the solution, if people just know about it. But I can guarantee you go out and talk to people on the street, and they if they don't know anybody that's dealing with addiction or these problems, they're very fortunate, you know, because I've talked to the judges, I've talked to attorneys, school teachers, physicians, and I hate to use the term epidemic, but I think we have almost an epidemic of a drug problem, not only in this state, but across this country, where there's meth, marijuana. I just read stats the other day that marijuana usage is at the highest level in the past 30 years among high school kids. But I appreciate the county commission and what y'all are doing and bringing awareness to this issue.
Well, I appreciate your leadership on this issue. I think it's pretty clear we do, and Public Service steering and the full commission, I believe, passed all of these resolutions unanimously. And I'll just say for one person, I can't speak for the other 20, but I'm reasonably certain that we mean business.
Yes, sir.
And I'm hoping that whatever legislation that you all pass, I'm hoping that means business too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I appreciate both of you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Womack, I think, did you have something you want to say
I'm
regarding
just going to add to your question about the evaluations for teachers. I've met with Commissioner Huffman. He's not real flexible on changing procedures, so we're going to be looking at least in the House and maybe even in the Senate, sponsoring legislation that will give him some guidelines to change these evaluations. As a former teacher myself, and I know Senator Tracy was too, we've adopted a California model for Tennesseans, and it's just really, I don't like it at all, not as an educator. So we're going to be working real hard with the governor's office and the commissioner to make sure that these are changed for the betterment of the teachers. I'll let you know that.
Commissioners?
One thing that had come up at our Tennessee County Commissioner Association that I don't know whether we implemented it or if it was another county, but we heard some feedback off of after we did so and talked about it. It's about the maintenance of effort in our budgetary process on the county level. I don't know exactly what we can do to change that. I understand the fail-safe that's there on our maintenance of effort for you to maintain that budgetary line, and like the school board or like the highway fund. But if you take like our highway fund, the rock quarry, for instance, we're not quarrying rock anymore, but we're maintaining that maintenance of effort in their budgetary process. So, you know, the economy's hit us pretty hard as well as it has other counties. So why are we still truly maintaining that effort of budget when we can truly cut a budget? Basically right now, all we're doing is cutting a request of what additional funds that they need or want in that budgetary process. We're not actually truly cutting budgetary. In the school system, it might be a situation of less pupils. Say we had 1% less growth, you know, than what we did last year. You know, how could we cut that budget if we had less students coming? We're not in that situation there on the school budget, but we are on the road fund. So I would like for you to look into that and whatever help we can give you for us to be able to laterally move or be able to truly cut if we need to cut. I'm not saying that we have to or we need to, but if if there's a possibility for us to, in a situation that we need to, then we want to have that opportunity to be able to do so. And that's all I'm asking. So if we would look into that situation, I know the county commission would like to help with you on that also.
Any other thoughts, questions? Mayor, I know, did you want to, you had a topic?
Well, this is something that in June of '09, a law was enacted that says the counties are now responsible for outpatient and inpatient mental health evaluations for those defendants charged with misdemeanors. And the first year that this happened, we didn't know what the impact was really going to be. Not giving you a copy of this. Greene County is ahead of us. They've already passed a resolution and have asked all 94 other counties to join in with this to really just review this legislation and repeal it.
That's where we got busted.
In that the first year, it cost us $151,000. If you notice in Greenwood, counties, they say it only cost them $20,000. Now our judges have now helping us much more, so the number is way down. But the potential is always there for a huge cost if we don't really manage this. And in the process of managing it, we may be not giving people the proper mental health evaluations, quite honestly. So that was something that just at the last moment happened. None of us had any opportunity to even say anything about it. We really didn't know the impact of it until we found out about it. So I think you're going to be hearing from a lot of counties asking for consideration to repeal that law.
Yeah, we've heard from this a while back, and I think this is something to be looked into because it affects every county in the state. It really does. It changes every county state, mayor, so we will take that under advisement. And it wouldn't hurt to contact the administration also to let them know about this. When y'all do a resolution, if you do, give it to the administration also on this.
Well, it'll be up to the committee tonight to decide if they want to adopt this resolution to forward on to you, one akin to the one that we've already got from Greene
I'm not on
County.
the committee, but I know about what the committee's going to do.
Mr. Mayor, at the very least, what this body, the Rutherford County delegation, can do is what we do in a number of cases. We can pull Rutherford County out specifically. And so if there are counties that for whatever reason want to stay in, there's no reason why we can't put an amendment or repeal Rutherford County out of this particular statute. It's done quite often, as a matter of fact. So at the very least, I think we might be able to get Rutherford County out. And I don't believe there would be any opposition in the House to doing that. I don't think it would be in the Senate either, Jim.
No, I will say this, I was on the Elections Oversight Committee for 6 years. This is probably one of the largest challenges that we have at the county level and also at the state level. I mean, with jail population going up like it is, prison population going up like it is, it's a challenge budgetarily. Every year we're challenged every year to do it. Just like y'all are at the local level, the jails are full, and it's a big challenge. So I will tell you, it's a challenge to do it, and this is going to be something that is going to be a larger challenge down the road. I think we do.
Speaking of, as chairman of public safety, speaking of jails and stuff being overcrowded and stuff, ours is roughly at about 900 inmates, close to it right now. I know the dollar, was it $35 a day that the state reimburses the county? I'm not asking for it to go up because I know there's no sense in where the budget is, but there's no talk about it going down, is there?
No talk about going down. We've asked them to go up before. You know, we actually carried legislation a few years ago to move to 40, and it's a challenge to do it with everything going on. But no, I don't see any movement to move it down. I mean, Rutherford County's got it. I mean, I could go through just about every county in Middle Tennessee, and they're in the same challenges. And it costs really more than what you get reimbursed if you were to go out to the jail here in Rutherford County. The cost is more than what you get reimbursed from the state. So we know that it's a big challenge on y'all, a big effect on the budget. And we're aware of that, and we'll continue to work on it.
And kind of touching off of what the mayor had spoke of with this resolution that Greene County did before us, is there anything out there that y'all may know on the horizon where there may be some bills coming about that may affect us, kind of like this right here did at long term?
Not yet. We'll get rolling tomorrow, and you can sort of check the website to see what bills, anything that I would think in the Senate will come through state and local. If it deals with something like this, it deals with local government, you can check the calendar on the state and local committee, and the same in the House. So you can follow that, follow the bills through the committee, and as soon as we start going, and we're moving fast this year, so they're gonna start calendaring bills pretty quickly, so you can start tracking those bills through online and see when they come up. And to my knowledge, there's not anything to that this year, but you never know what members are gonna present, so you better just follow along. Ernest does a good job, the mayor does a good job of checking that calendar, letting us know what's coming about, and he keeps us informed on legislation that's gonna affect Rutherford County.
With the session fixing to go in short term this year possibly, what's the deadline date for?
What's the deadline?
Filing date is January 26th. That's the filing date.
So they gotta be filed by then. And we are gonna move faster this year. We're gonna try to move faster than we have been in the past.
Just a point of order, these kind of bills, it was like the one we're talking about here on this mental health evaluation, that was, I'm sure, an administration bill. It was filed near the very last moment, and I'm sure it's supposed to have a fiscal note attached to it, so in that particular case, there should have been a huge fiscal note that was going to push back on all the counties. But it went through, and none of us ever even knew about it. And I don't know, somehow we gotta find a way to have some foreknowledge.
I don't remember exactly, Mayor, but I bet you it was under the technical corrections bill, and we don't do that anymore. Mayor, Governor Haslam says we're not doing a technical corrections bill anymore. He didn't do one this last year. What they do, just so y'all know, again, when I first got in the Senate, they had a technical corrections bill, and it might be 75 pages long, and it'll go, Ernest knows what we're talking about. I mean, it'll go to an array of different issues, and we actually talked to the governor when he got elected. He said, I'm not going to do that anymore, so we did not have a technical corrections bill. And they'll put a lot of things in there and hide things in, and you got to do an up or down vote, and there's some things in there that you want, some things you don't want, but at the end of the day, all they got to have 17 in the Senate and 50 in the House, and that bill passes. And I don't know that to be true, but I bet you I can go back and look, and I bet it was in the correction, technical correction. Y'all remember, Joe?
Okay.
Well, I mean, this is common knowledge, and we always say it, protect our BEP funding. We really strive that, when times are tough, things start cutting everywhere, but when you cut in Nashville, then we got to make it up here, locally.
There is no effort that I'm aware of, Commissioner, to cut DEP funding at all. I haven't even heard a conversation about doing that.
I understand, and I appreciate that, but see, when you talk about teacher evaluation thing, we put on, 5 people just to do the teacher evaluation deal, and we knew that wasn't going to be enough, really, for the evaluations that has to happen. So I know you're going to work on that, and I don't want to beat y'all up over that, but it's happened, it's in place, and we're having to deal with it locally, and so it's costing us money locally to go through this process when we've got a great bunch of teachers out there, and they're evaluated to death over it. So, if there's some formulas out there some things I heard that actually Senator Tracy mentioned to me last night, that if they got a high score or something, they might not be evaluated as much as somebody maybe gotten a low score. And to help those with low scores get to where they need to be, because they're probably a good teacher and didn't do a few things right or whatever. But it's costing us taxpayers to get people to even go through this process. So, like I said, I don't want to beat you up too much on that. I know you're going to work on it, so I'm just...
to remind, you're right on it. This goes back to 2 years ago under Governor Bredesen, where we passed the Race to the Top legislation, and the Race to the Top legislation requires evaluation. That was part of getting the money for doing that. And So we're just following through that. Now we've got to make it right. We got to make it more efficient, more effective, more streamlined, more fair. All those things are real important, and we've got to do that. We're going to do that. We have to go through the growing pains to get there. And you're exactly correct. If you go and visit teachers that I have, and I've visited with teachers and administrators throughout. And I want to say this in front of y'all. Mr. Gill has been very involved in this. I've had 3 meetings with him and other superintendents in Middle Tennessee and really all over Tennessee. Since I'm on the education committee, they've met with me, and they brought forth, Mr. Gill brought forth some great ideas. Rutherford County is really ahead of the game compared to other counties. We've got a very good county here in Rutherford County as far as teachers go. So we're ahead of the game compared to other counties, and they've done a good job letting us in on what you're talking about, Commissioner, about this. So it is important. We're going to work on that, and I think you're going to see some changes, just some common sense things that if you talk to teachers and administrators, that they give some common sense things that we're going to work on.
Appreciate it.
One thing I want to add here, we are going to visit the BEP. We're looking, myself and several others in the House and some in the Senate, we're looking at bringing the teachers under the state umbrella, which is going to affect the BEP. That's about all I can say about it right now, but whatever the outcome is, we hope it to be beneficial for the counties when it comes to the budgets, as well as bring the teachers and giving them some sort of pay raise, especially in our rural counties where we can't get teachers. I think last year, McMinn County had, or Coffee County had enough teachers to start the school year, and then within a week or two after school started, they were about 20 teachers short because they all had to go to the bigger counties where the pay was higher. So this is a problem that we're going to address with part of it, bringing these teachers under the state umbrella. So that is something that is going to happen. Keep an eye on that. Whether it passes this year, I can't tell you, but there will be a bill introduced to do that.
Commissioner Sandlin, I can tell you, I know I've also heard from your wife and several other teachers. They packed the plaza, they packed our offices, and their voice was really loud. We had our caucus retreat, and that was the #1 issue talked about was evaluations and how they may be somewhat extreme. I think it goes back to excessive compliance issues, whether it's small business teachers are facing, nurses are facing. And I tell you what, they were loud. And I know that was the #1 issue that was discussed was the observations.
Thank you.
Senator Tracy, Representatives Carr, Sparks, and Womack, we appreciate y'all very much for being here.
Thanks for getting us in here and in here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner
Real
Black.
quick, I'd just like to tell Senator Tracy and Representative Sparks on the northern side of town, Jefferson Pike, appreciate the signs, hazard signs. I know, I don't know how as far as the funding, it's probably been exhausted as far as the road widening. I don't know. Could you give me an update on that?
Yeah, it is still on target. You know, we're divided it into 3. TDOT is divided into 3 sections. The first section is from 840 to Smyrna, and they're already doing, I guess you've noticed now, they've done the engineering. I think they're beginning to start to buy the right-of-way. And then that'll move forward quick. Then the next section is between 840 and 231. And that'll start the process. They'll start engineering, buying right-of-way. So they know, actually, Mayor Burgess and the county has put a big effort with TDOT to get that done. It is a very important issue. So I've told TDOT that's one of the most important roads in Rutherford County to get done. Jack, you've got a couple of constituents out there that probably call me on a weekly basis.
Absolutely.
Update me.
They call me
And I'm with them 100%. If you travel it very much, with all the trucks that are moving on, it's a narrow, there's a lot of subdivisions out there, it's very dangerous. So I'm gonna stay on that. I know Representative Sparks will stay on it. We're gonna work with TDOT to try to get that moving faster. But I will tell you this, and with my 7 years experience now, it's too long. Commissioner Shore said the other day, it's about 11 years to get a road project. The time you do engineering and environmental studies, buying the right of way.
Sure.
And letting the project, it takes 10 or 11 years. His goal is to move it to 8 years and, to streamline it a little bit quicker. So that is an important issue. I could tell you about 14 people call me on a regular basis.
I don't mean to beat a horse, a dead horse, but, it's a major issue to us, and,
It is.
like, I'm looking out for their best interests, and appreciate all y'all can do on it.
Well, Jack, I think y'all passed 4 to 3 resolutions, I think, my tenure on the county commission. I think there was a fatality down there near Hickory Grove about 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. We were able to get the safety improvements at Mona done, and appreciate you asking about that. And, so it's just, it's like Walter Road, it's finally coming to fruition. It just takes, wheels of government turn so slow.
Slow, I understand.
And you need to just slow down a little bit on Jefferson Pike.
True, absolutely. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for all y'all do for Rutherford County.
Thank y'all. Adam, can I say something real quick? Going back to what the mayor talked about, the impact on our jails. I was talking to a couple of deputies the other day. They said that they have a young gentleman in there that wants synthetic drugs that cost y'all about $150,000 in medical costs. I think his kidneys were shut down. I don't know what it was on. It was maybe bath salts. Commissioner Farley, you may know what I'm talking about. There's $150,000 impact right there. That's an emotional impact to the families, but you've got fiscal impact that may not really be quantified either. So there's $150,000 for you right there.
Thank you all. Next, we have a modification. Yes, sir.
If we could, before we move past this, if the commission wants us to get legislation requested regarding this mental health evaluation, we need the steering committee tonight to actually approve or recommend this resolution, which we have a model here from Greene County to go forward.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Now we have a modification of private act regarding wheel tax decal.
And yes, please sit right there and they can all see you and make your presentation.
Did everyone receive the study that I conducted? Does anybody have any questions concerning it?
This one.
I'd like to say this. I asked you to do it, and I tell you what, I read it today, and it's a good study, and I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Does anybody have any questions concerning it? I'd be glad to answer them.
Well, it looks like it's a pretty unanimous consent from all the people that she's polled that it's working, no complaints, and it's very, very effective, and it's saving money.
It is, and if you notice on there, we will be the largest county doing this. Other counties are doing it to save $2,000 and $3,000. We can do it to save over $13,000. I just, for those out there that's watching, or you all, it's an automatic. When you come into the motor vehicle department to renew your tag, you're gonna pay a wheel tax sticker fee, regardless if you get a decal or not. It's just an automatic. The registration will stand as proof that you paid your wheel tax sticker fees, or your wheel tax fees, there won't be a decal or nothing. And we do already have our decals for this year. And we just need to go on and continue using them. We have them, we pay for them. And then January, or in September, we won't have to submit or ask for bids or anything like that. And I've had some of my deputy clerks come in or tell me that they've had residents come in, and so far, every one of them has been positive about it and said it made sense, that they actually did not need a decal to pay a tax.
This is probably not the question for you, but it may be a question for the sheriff, and he's not here tonight, but since the transition of the wheel tax officer leaving from your office going to the sheriff's office, do we know any numbers of how has it went down enforcement wise, or has it went up, or anything?
Well, the last time that was presented, I forgot which, it was, I think Schaefer that asked for it. The numbers were up, as far as the tax collection on the wheel tax. So, you know, it's got the roller strip on the bottom anyway. My understanding is officers do not pull a vehicle over because they have an expired wheel tax decal. It's the state part that they pull them over for. So many vehicles out there now have frames around them. You
Can't see 'em anyway.
You can't see the bottom half of the tag. With the fadage we've had with the stickers, that's not the reason they pull them over. They pull them over for the state part, not the county part.
Mr. Chairman, with her recommendation, I'll make a motion that we accept her recommendation to remove the decal.
I'll second. I think that you need to know that the Public Safety Committee, I believe Chairman Farley will confirm this. I don't know that there's any subject that we have discussed more. Now, we're going back 3 years for me when I was on public safety. Than the wheel tax. It's enforcement, selling it, you know, whatever. It's just a real problem. And that's really why I second this motion. Secondly, of all days, just so happened today that I renewed my wife's car. And I was in there and I went over to, just to say something to her, had nothing to do with this at all, okay? And while I was over there were two people there that were actively stapling the wheel tax sticker to another piece of paper, which it was just something that has to be done. And one of them told me that she did that in every spare moment, just about every day. And we can at least free up some people and maybe free to do some other work. I also want, on a lighter note, to protest the wheel tax sticker being the color orange. And we really could use a blue and white sticker. That's okay, and I second his motion.
A motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman? Now,
Yes, sir.
This, you know, all of you have a copy. Do all of you already have a copy of the resolution that she's prepared that will amend
We received that last
our
month, I
Private Act?
believe.
So, the motion hopefully would be to include this private act here,
Right.
amendments and changes that she's identified and has been prepared and reviewed by legal counsel.
And that's part of my motion, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
And it cleans it up.
Right.
Any other discussion?
I second Stein on that as well.
You're approving this resolution.
Yes. That's the same one you gave us last month.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the Register of Deeds and Records Management.
Hello. We're coming before you this evening in the spirit of cooperation, interdepartment cooperation, and within the different offices to offer the services of the Register of Deeds office to help with records management throughout the county. It would require a change to the TCA code. Representative Carr has made that amendment for me and assures me that will carry through. I do have a copy of that. Has that been provided to you at all? No. Let me read real quickly what it is. I apologize. I thought that would be provided, but what we're basically asking to be changed is a very minor word change, and then I'll explain why we're asking for that change in the TCA code. At the very end of the duties of the Office of Register of Deeds, there's a paragraph, section 1, in 813. And it says, if any county having a population in excess of 890,000, according to the 2000 federal census, or any subsequent federal census, or any county in which the register receives endorsement from the existing County Records Commission or county executive, the register may assume the functions and duties of the microfilm, public records, or archives departments, or any of these is established by the county commission. The difference, that is the amendment we're going to be making. The difference is it didn't include any register whose county commission or executive approves this. The difference is minuscule, but it would allow us, we have in the registrar's office, we have accumulated a good amount of money through the EDP fund, the Electronic Data Processing Fund. Currently, those funds can only be used for any official duty of the registrar's office. Because there is such a large pool of money, there is in excess of what the registrar's office will actually need, and that's become apparent. The other thing that became apparent to me during my tenure on the Records Commission Committee is that majority of other departments do not have any funds to do electronic data processing, and therefore we are accumulating at an alarming rate large numbers of permanent documents within the county that are not backed up electronically or have not been scanned, and they have no funds to do so. That is an issue within when we were doing our continuity of operations study throughout the county, that there's a major issue there with records management. We're very fortunate within the county, from my understanding with different department discussions within different department heads, that they've kept everything. That's one blessing, but that's also the curse. They've kept everything. It makes it more record keeping instead of record management. To reduce the number of documents that need to be stored, if we went to a scanning project and scanned a lot of those documents, we'd be able to reduce our cost in storage. Currently, I know the sheriff is currently requesting use of some other building and storage sites for his records because he's just run out of space. The other problem with that is not just a space issue. There's an expense for different departments to their staff to find and access documents. The amount of time that's spent accessing documents is costly. And thirdly, just making them available for the public. It's not very efficient when we have documents stored off-site in buildings and boxes and we can't retrieve them electronically. That all being said, the small difference in the language is basically changing it, allowing the register, if upon approval with the commission, to take on those duties. By making it an official duty, then it releases the use of the funds that we have within our office, which we're willing to share within the county to protect all the county documents.
Is this going to require additional help or additional expense?
That I don't know yet. I think it's quite possible it will. On my initial conversations with different department heads, the volume of inventory of permanent paper is extensive. We're required by statute to keep all kinds of documents. As you well know, documentation is the legal framework for the county. Initially, I thought, our staff in between could handle that. After hearing the volume, I'm assuming, and that would have to be a study that would have to be done in effect to see where we're at. I can't guarantee it, but that could come out of the same fund.
I know there's some records that's 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. Mm-hmm. Has there anybody went out and purged some of those records to see if some of them need to be? That's
one of the other things we'd like to offer. My understanding and what I inherited and what most people that come into county offices is there's always been a fear that you might dispose of something you shouldn't have. So therefore everything has been kept, which is a problem. It costs a considerable amount of money. No record should be kept that is no longer useful to the public. It costs money to do so. So, and on the flip side of that, no record should be gotten rid of that is necessary to the public interest. So what has happened is, and we meet quarterly in the Records Commission, and quarterly documents should be being purged from every department, every office. We may get 5 or 6 record disposition requests at the Records Commission meeting quarterly, which tells me it's not happening. There's no mechanism in place currently to make that happen. Every department head has a book that tells them what records are and aren't, but more than likely those are just being stored and stored and stored. We would go in, within the registrar's office, we've adopted quarterly, we purge everything that we need to. There's several things. The first thing would be to inventory what the county has in records. Second would be to look at the storage space that we have and make recommendations for the proper storage of what has to be kept. Can it be disposed of through the Records Commission using the statutes that we have by the state? Does it need to be archived? Can it be electronically copied and destroyed? And then thirdly, how can we work with departments to reduce the amount of permanent paper that is created? Permanent paper is, once you create a permanent paper document, it is very difficult through the statute and through the steps we have to take to transfer it to an electronic format. So, but for example, the circuit court clerk and the county court clerk both recently got a fee, an archival fee for $5 per document. They need to accumulate those monies more for software and computer upgrades. And what would be helpful is when by the time they accumulate enough to make those upgrades, that they already had scanned documents that they could import into. And so as the registrar's office, what we'd like to recommend is that we take on that scanning project, go ahead and begin to scan their documents for them, so that when they do upgrade their systems and do make those changes, they will be able to import those documents and index them as they see fit. We would also be working with them to help them make the proper disposition of documents that they can purge as well. And that would be a countywide project. We've developed a system in the Register of Deeds office that is very systematic, very simple, just a matter of every quarter hitting a button and then it tells us which documents go that quarter. On the permanent documents, we are paperless now in the registrar's office, and I can see in long term for a county this size, we've got to encourage departments to invest in. The upfront cost may be costly in the beginning, but we need to help them invest in ways to create permanent documents electronically wherever possible and reduce the amount of permanent paper. Storage space is limited, and storing paper documents that are supposedly to be kept permanently is costly when you talk about humidity and moisture and types of paper and what have you. So we have to make that transition. We're a size county where it only makes sense to do that. And to help in that process, we need to go ahead and back scan as many of our documents that are permanent that we can and get on a regular disposition schedule. So as a Register of Deeds in our office, we're offering our services to help begin that process. It is going to be a mammoth project. I know I'm not going to sugarcoat it anyway, but then it's going to be a big project, but it has to be done sooner or later. I don't see any other alternative to that. So the way to start would be to use the funds we've accumulated. The blessing and the curse of the county's rapid growth is we grew so fast that the permanent documents have just accumulated at an alarming rate. But the blessing of that is, at the same time, the registrar's office was collecting a $2 document fee, which also accumulated at a pretty good pace. So we have this pot of money. However, currently, it can only be used for an official duty of the Register of Deeds. So this resolution, this change to the code, which is going to happen, Joe Carr is going to present it, it's going to be amended, would allow us, if this commission, I'm just giving you the information so that you can be thinking about allowing the Rutherford County Register to take on those duties.
Sounds like a good idea.
So what she's asking you to do is to pass a resolution to ask our legislative body, she's already talked to Representative Carr, to change this language in state code that expands the duties allowed by the Register of Deeds. Once you do that, in addition says, if you so choose, if the commission approves the use of the Register of Deeds office to scan records for the circuit court clerk or whatever, then she'll be authorized to do that. And she can use those monies that's been accumulated for that purpose.
Right.
We so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
That's just tying the bow on what we've already set forth in a role on collecting those dollars to do that. This is cleaning that up for us to allow us to.
It's expanding her duties.
To actually to do it.
So that the previous
Yes.
statutes will allow her
Right.
to do this function for other departments and other offices.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we need to announce a vacancy on the Industrial Development Board and Health, Education, and Facilities Board to fill the unexpired term of John C. Jones Jr. to expire August 2013. Next, we need to fill a CPA vacancy on the Audit Committee. We received one application from Mr. Mark H. Crocker. Is Mr. Crocker here? Hello, Mr. Crocker. At this point in time, we'd like to ask any applicants if they'd like to address the committee. We'd be happy to hear.
Well, basically, all I'd like to say is this is an opportunity for me to give back to my community in a certain sense. I'm an experienced CPA. I've worked with Ms. Nolan in the past. I think I can do a good job for folks.
Any questions for Mr. Crocker?
Did you apply the last time?
I did.
Did.
Appreciate you reapplying.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept Mr. Crocker's application.
A motion and a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crocker.
Chairman Coggan?
Yes,
That'd be
sir.
A perfect spot to congratulate Ms. Nolan and the mayor and others, particularly Ms. Nolan's staff, on an audit that was just about as close to perfect as possible. And I might also point out that this is not the first time this has happened. It's been excellent for a number of years. I know she has a grateful public.
Absolutely. Thank you.
She's running out of plaque space though
Yes.
for that award. She's gonna have to start down
Very
lower, or going around to the other side of the hallway. Yes.
And I'll say this, especially when it's rewarding to know that you have people that, such as the mayor and Ms. Nolan and the budget department, to do the jobs that they do, and especially when you got people that come constantly and want to try to make innuendos to the county commission each month to say things different, Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, next we need to fill a vacancy on the Conservation Board. They received one applicant, their application for that appointment, Mr. David Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell here? I don't see him. We have a motion.
So moved for Mr. Mitchell.
Motion
Big
approved.
Conservation Board.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of Mr. Mitchell, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Very well. Any other business?
Mr. Chairman, there are a couple of applicants here, to be applicants for this position on the IDB. You might remind them that you're going to actually be reviewing those applications next meeting, your next standard steering committee meeting, and that's when the recommendation will be made that particular night that will go to the full commission.
And then make those applications at your office.
Yes,
So
they're available.
at the courthouse.
Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.